Have you ever wondered what it truly means to live for the greater good? To surrender your will, your doubts, your identity, all for the promise of a perfect society? The Tao did. And for a time, they believed they had found the answer. In the far reaches of the eastern fringe, beneath pale suns and silent nebulae, a young species rose from chaos. They were fragile, once divided by war, driven by primitive weapons and endless tribal slaughter. Fire met air, earth clashed with water, and their world bled for centuries. Yet in the heart of this darkness, something changed. A new light appeared, serene, commanding, impossible to resist. The ethereals. No one truly knows where the ethereals came from. Some say they descended from the heavens, radiant and calm, carrying a message of unity. Others whisper they were born of shadow, engineered or summoned by powers that even now remain hidden. But when they spoke, their voices silenced every war. Their presence alone bent armies to peace. And so, the Tao found purpose. They named it Tova, the greater good. For generations, it worked. The fire caste became soldiers, the earth caste engineers, the water caste diplomats, and the air caste explorers. Every being had a role, every life a place. Harmony, order, progress, these were their truths. The stars themselves began to open before them. With each colony founded, with each alien race brought under their banner, the dream of the greater good grew brighter. But dreams have shadows. And behind every perfect order lies the quiet hum of control. Those who questioned disappeared. Those who hesitated were re-educated. The ethereals never raised their voices, never showed anger. They simply looked at you, and your doubts dissolved into obedience. None could explain it. None dared to. Even among the fire warriors, the proud defenders of the empire, whispers spread in the quiet between battles. Was the greater good a truth, or a leash? Were they fighting for peace, or simply expanding the reach of something unseen? The young ones never asked. The old ones never answered. Yet still, they advanced. Their fleets burned across void and dust, offering peace to worlds that did not want it. Join us, they said, and you will be part of something greater. Those who refused, ceased to exist. For every world that welcomed them, 3 more vanished beneath blue-white fire. To live as Tao is to never doubt. To never look too deeply into the serene faces of the ethereals. To never question why you feel calm in their presence. To live as Tao is to forget that freedom ever existed. And yet, among them, one soul remembered. His name was Shasla Tashren, a fire warrior of the Virla Sept, born beneath the red storms of his home world, trained to obey, to fight, to believe. From his earliest breath, the greater good was more than a creed, it was the rhythm of his existence. Every command, every kill, every victory, all served one purpose: unity through purpose, purpose through obedience. But on the dust-blown colony of Dal Youth Prime, Tashren's faith began to crack. The campaign was supposed to be swift, a minor rebellion of humans who refused Tao governance. They called themselves the Forgotten, a group of imperial settlers left behind after the wars of the Imperium. When the Tao came, they offered peace, as always. But the humans refused. They claimed the greater good was just another tyranny, a different color of chain. The first time Tashren looked into the eyes of those humans, unarmored, starving, yet defiant, he felt something he had never known before. Pity. And behind that pity, something darker: doubt. The battle was not glorious. The fire caste swept through the settlement with clinical precision. Rail rifles sang, pulse fire burned through bodies, and the cries of the dying rose against the sterile hum of drones. When the smoke cleared, the humans lay silent in the dust, men, women, children. And in the center of the ruins, one symbol burned into the sand, a crude, hand-painted skull with a single phrase beneath it: better the Emperor's chains than your lies. That night, Tashren could not sleep. The words gnawed at him like a parasite. He had been taught that those who resist the greater good are blind, primitive, savage. Yet he had seen something pure in those human eyes, conviction, even in death. Something his own kind no longer possessed. When he returned to his barracks, he found a notice of commendation awaiting him, recognition for exemplary service to the greater good. The irony bit deep. For the first time, the phrase felt hollow. Over the following cycles, the world of Daluth Prime continued to resist. Guerrilla fighters hid in forests and ruins, striking at convoys, vanishing into the dust. The ethereal in command, Envor, decreed that the resistance be erased completely. Mercy is wasteful, the ethereal said in that serene, melodic tone. Purity of thought must be preserved. And so it was. Settlements were sterilized. Cities were purged. The fires burned for weeks. Tashran obeyed. He fired his weapon when ordered. He saluted his commanders. But inside, something cold and poisonous began to grow. Each trigger pull echoed with questions he could no longer silence. Why did the ethereals never fight? Why did their calm feel so absolute, so unnatural? Why did the greater good demand so much death? He began to notice small things. When an ethereal entered a room, his heartbeat slowed. His anger vanished. His thoughts aligned. It was peaceful, yes, but too perfect. Too controlled. The calm wasn't natural. It was induced. One night, unable to bear the silence, Tashran removed his helmet and stared into the mirror. His eyes, once sharp and bright, were dull, glassy, lifeless. The reflection stared back as if asking, "Do you even know who you are?" He didn't. Doubt, in the Tau Empire, is not a sin, it is an infection. It begins quietly, unnoticed, beneath layers of devotion and order. But once it takes root, it grows faster than any weapon can destroy. For Tashran, it began with the smallest fracture, and ended with silence. He started asking questions carefully, cautiously, never aloud where drones could hear. In the barracks, he spoke to his comrade Shas Ui Kor-El, an older warrior who had fought across dozens of campaigns. Kor-El had seen more of the galaxy than most Tau would ever dream to. Tashran waited until the lights dimmed and whispered, "Kor-El, have you ever wondered why the ethereals never die?" The elder warrior froze. His eyes darted toward the corners of the room, where surveillance drones floated, humming softly. "Tashran," he hissed, "that is not a question for warriors. Sleep. Forget this." But Tashran could not. The next morning, Kor-El was gone. No one mentioned him. His bunk was empty, his records erased. It was as if he had never existed. Something inside Tashran broke that day. He began noticing things others didn't. Whenever an ethereal passed, every fire warrior's stance straightened. Every word, every breath, fell into perfect rhythm as though the entire platoon were a single organism reacting to one command. And when the ethereal left, they would blink in confusion, as if waking from a trance. Tashran tested it. He recorded his own neural activity during one of the ethereal's visits. The results were impossible: a sudden wave of synchronized brain activity, followed by suppression of critical thought centers. His mind, in those moments, was not his own. It terrified him. Late one night, he broke into the communications bay, a dangerous act punishable by death. There, through encrypted archives, he found fragments of classified transmissions, messages between the Ethereal Council and the Earth caste scientists. Most were indecipherable, coded in complex linguistic layers. But one phrase repeated across them all, cold and haunting: "Maintain neural harmonics. The resonance must not falter." Neural harmonics. Resonance. Control. The pieces began to form a shape that Tashran could barely comprehend. His curiosity turned to obsession. He began collecting old records, forgotten battle logs, reports from failed colonization efforts. Many ended abruptly, with no explanations. Whole settlements vanished from history, even entire septs erased. The official story was always the same, integrated into the greater good. But Tashren now understood what that meant. Integration was annihilation. Unity was slavery. One night, while reviewing old files, he found something forbidden, a transmission fragment from a lost Tau fleet. The voice was frantic, static-filled. They see through us. The ethereals, they are not. Then silence. Then a shriek of white noise that burned through his earpiece, almost alive. Tashren ripped the headset off, his heart pounding. In the darkness, he swore he heard whispers, faint, almost mechanical, echoing in his skull. Obey. Obey. For the greater good. He collapsed to his knees, trembling. The mantra he had known since childhood now sounded like a curse. From that night onward, he could no longer feel the calm presence of the ethereals without nausea crawling through his veins. Every sermon, every rally, every speech, their words felt like invisible chains tightening around his mind. And then, one day, a shadow approached him in the corridor, a figure in a weathered fire caste uniform, its insignia scratched away. "You've seen it, haven't you?" the stranger whispered. "You felt it?" Tashren froze. The stranger's eyes were hollow, tired, but awake, truly awake. "We call ourselves the Unbound," he said. "We were like you once. Believers. Until we learned what the ethereals really are." Tashren's voice trembled. "What are they?" The stranger smiled, the kind of smile that only madness or truth could shape. "Not gods. Not leaders. Parasites." There was no turning back. Once the seed of knowledge takes root, ignorance can never grow again. Tashren followed the stranger through the labyrinthine tunnels beneath Daluth Prime, corridors that the drones did not patrol, places whispered about but never acknowledged. The air was stale, thick with dust and ozone. Every step felt heavier, like walking deeper into a grave. The stranger led him to a chamber carved out of the rock, dimly lit by broken glow panels scavenged from abandoned outposts. There, gathered in silence, were others like him. Fire warriors, earth caste engineers, even an air caste pilot with one eye replaced by crude machinery. They all bore the same look, hollow, scarred, yet somehow, free. "We are the Unbound," the stranger said again. "Those who have seen the lie." Tashren scanned their faces. Some bore the mark of neural scarring, the remnants of something cut out of their minds. He asked, "What lie?" An old earth caste engineer stepped forward. His voice trembled, both with age and conviction. "The ethereals," he said, "were never meant to exist. They are not a caste. They are a creation." Tashren frowned. "Created, by who?" The engineer nodded slowly. "By us. Or rather, by those before us, the earth caste of old. When the civil wars raged, when Tau fought Tau, the world was on the brink of extinction. The scientists sought a way to unite the species, not through diplomacy, but through control. They created the ethereals as a biological key, beings engineered with pheromonal and psychic resonance, capable of overriding free will." The room fell silent. Tashren's pulse pounded in his ears. The realization was too immense to grasp. "You're saying," he whispered, "we enslaved ourselves?" The engineer's eyes were wet. "We did worse. We made gods out of our own chains." He gestured to a broken datapad, flickering with old recordings, degraded, ancient. On it, Tashren saw footage from centuries past, laboratories, genetic vats, the first emergence of the ethereal form, pale, calm, luminous. The scientists around them bowed as if in worship, unaware of what they had unleashed. Then, more footage, Tau soldiers laying down their weapons at the ethereal's first command. Entire battlefields going silent in seconds. Peace achieved not by choice, but by surrender. Tashren turned away, bile rising in his throat. Why hasn't this been seen? Why hasn't anyone known? The air caste pilot answered from the shadows, her voice bitter. Because those who learn don't live long enough to speak. The ethereals control everything: memory, history, emotion. You don't rebel when you can't even imagine rebellion. The fire caste stranger, the one who had found him, stepped closer. We found ways to break the resonance. Pain helps. So does exposure to the warp, though it changes you. That's why they call us heretics. We are heretics. But we remember. Tashren's mind swirled with horror and awe. If the ethereals were the product of science, if their power was a mechanism, not a miracle, then the greater good was not divine purpose, it was programming. He thought back to the children he'd seen chanting those words, their voices perfectly synchronized. For the greater good. He now heard it differently, a song of obedience written into their blood. But even as despair threatened to crush him, a new fire kindled inside his chest. What can we do? He asked. The stranger's gaze hardened. We fight. Not for victory, there is no victory against gods. We fight so that one day, someone remembers that we were free once. Tashren looked around at the unbound, at their scars, their haunted eyes, their trembling hope. He realized then that the greater good had not united the Tao. It had divided them between those who served and those who knew. And he swore that he would never serve again. Rebellion among the Tao was not declared with banners or war cries. It began in whispers. In the quiet places where drones could not hear and ethereals could not see, truth moved like smoke, thin, poisonous, unstoppable once breathed in. Tashren became one of its carriers. The unbound operated beneath the skin of the Empire ghosts inside the body of perfection. They used broken relay stations, corrupted drones, and stolen encryption codes. Through these, they sent messages disguised as standard transmissions, minor errors, fragments of data, strings of meaningless symbols. But for those who knew where to look, the meaning was clear. The ethereals are not divine. You are not free. Weeks passed. The whisper spread. Some soldiers ignored it. Others erased it, too afraid to think. But a few, just a few, hesitated. That hesitation was enough. Each moment of doubt weakened the invisible net of control. Each unanswered question was a spark against the veil of obedience. Tashren saw it in their eyes, flickers of awareness, tiny fractures in a perfect mirror. And for the first time in Tao history, uncertainty became contagious. Still, their rebellion was not without cost. One night, the Unbound's hideout trembled. Alarms shrieked. Drones descended from the skies like silver locusts, their optics glowing with cold intelligence. The ethereals had found them. Tashren ran through tunnels filled with smoke and chaos. Plasma fire scorched the walls. The Earth caste engineer, the old man who had shown him the truth, was cut down by pulse rounds before he could speak a word. His blood painted the floor with the same calm efficiency the Tao reserved for everything. Tashren, the fire caste stranger, shouted. This way. They fled deeper underground, past the shattered ruins of the old laboratories. The air hummed with static, the psychic resonance of the ethereals approaching. Tashren could feel it crawling through his skull, trying to smother his thoughts with calmness. The words rose inside his mind like a virus. Peace. Unity. Obey. He screamed to drown them out. They reached a sealed chamber, the heart of the old facility. There, stored within containment fields, were relics from the first experiments. Vats filled with amniotic fluid, each containing something that looked disturbingly familiar, half-formed ethereals, their faces serene even in stillbirth. This is where it began, the stranger said. The birthplace of our gods. Tashren stared at the silent forms floating in glass. Even unborn, they radiated presence. His mind trembled, resisting the pull. Can we destroy it? He asked. The stranger nodded. Yes. But that won't kill them. The ethereals will survive. They always do. This will only send a message that we remember. They planted the charges. As they prepared to detonate, the chamber doors slid open. Onvor the ethereal commander himself stood framed in the light, robes flowing like water. His voice was calm, as always. Tashren, he said gently. You are ill. Come back to us. Let us heal you. There is no pain in the greater good. The voice was beautiful, flawless, almost tender. For a moment, Tashren felt his body respond, muscles relaxing, heartbeat slowing. The familiar serenity returned. His thoughts began to fade. Then he remembered the faces of the dead on Daluth Prime. The humans who refused peace. The old engineer dying without fear. He clenched his fists. No more peace. He raised his weapon and fired. The plasma bolt tore through Onvor's chest, but the ethereal did not scream. He only looked at Tashren with something like pity, and then he smiled. Even now, he whispered, you serve the greater good. You make the others stronger. The explosion swallowed his words. The old facility collapsed in fire and thunder. For a heartbeat, the psychic calm that blanketed the Empire faltered. Across distant worlds, ethereals paused. A tremor passed through the neural resonance of their control, a faint crack in the song of obedience. And somewhere, far beyond Daluth Prime, another fire warrior woke from a dream of perfect peace, and for the first time, felt fear. The explosion on Daluth Prime echoed farther than any physical sound could travel. It rippled through the psychic lattice that bound the Tau together, spreading like a crack through glass. For the first time in living memory, the Empire felt out of tune. Across 100 worlds, citizens awoke in the middle of their work cycles, trembling without knowing why. Soldiers forgot their drills, drones froze in midair. The ever-present calm that wrapped every Tau mind faltered, revealing a raw silence underneath an emptiness that had never been felt before. And within that silence came something far worse, thought. Questions spread faster than any virus. Why do we obey? Why do we never dream? Why can't I remember my childhood before the ethereal arrived? The ethereal councils reacted immediately. On every sept, they summoned emergency gatherings, speaking with measured voices, their faces still serene. They told the people that a terrorist incident had disrupted the harmony of the greater good. They spoke of infection, of rogue elements corrupted by alien influence. The cure, they said, was unity. The cure was faith. But the more they spoke, the less their words worked. The resonance was broken. Their control, once effortless, now required force. Drones began patrolling the streets in greater numbers. Broadcasts of ethereal sermons looped endlessly, their tones soothing, almost hypnotic. Yet the people looked away. The spell was weakening. And on the outer rim worlds, rumors began to grow. They spoke of a warrior named Tashren, who had defied an ethereal and lived. Of hidden cells called the Unbound, spreading forbidden truths. Of laboratories buried in the red deserts where false gods had been born. These stories traveled through static-filled transmissions and broken code, each retelling more distorted than the last. Some said Tashren had destroyed the ethereals entirely. Others whispered that he had become one of them, reborn and twisted, a shadow preaching a darker faith. The truth didn't matter. The idea did. Ideas are what destroy empires. The ethereals could not let that happen. They enacted protocol silence. Across the networked minds of their people, they released a psychic pulse, an echo designed to erase memory, to restore order by force. Entire populations convulsed as the wave passed through them. Drones crashed from the sky. Those too close to the source simply stopped breathing, their minds dissolved into stillness. When the pulse faded, the empire stood calm once more. The streets were quiet. The factories hummed again. The broadcasts resumed their endless chant. For the greater good. But the calm was hollow. Thousands had vanished. Records were purged. Whole colonies were gone. And yet, somewhere deep within the neural lattice, something remained, a scar, faint but persistent. Every so often, a worker would pause in the middle of their task, eyes distant, as if remembering something they were never supposed to know. In the ruins of Daluth Prime, beneath the ash and glass, the symbol of the unbound still burned faintly on a scorched wall. A skull. And beneath it, the words, "We remember." Daluth Prime never healed. The ash storm still rolled over its glass plains, whispering through the bones of fallen towers. Yet beneath that ruin, something stirred. Tashren lived. Barely. He awoke buried under stone and static, his armor fused to his flesh, his lungs burning with the dust of his own rebellion. For a long time he didn't know who he was, the explosion had burned his name out of his thoughts. Only fragments returned, voices, faces, the word parasites. Then memory struck like lightning. He remembered the truth. He remembered them. He dragged himself through the wreckage toward the old vaults. The laboratories were gone, swallowed by fire, but their machines still whispered. Faint energy hummed behind shattered glass. One of the incubation tanks still pulsed with life, something half-formed, half-awake inside. Its eyes opened as he approached, pale and perfect. A voice slid into his mind. "You cannot kill what you built." He leveled his rifle, trembling. "Maybe not," he rasped, "but I can make you remember me." He fired until the tank shattered. The creature dissolved into vapor, its psychic cry echoing across the stars like a dying note. That cry reached the ethereal conclave. Across the empire, the ruling caste turned their faces toward the void. For a heartbeat they saw through Tashren's eyes his rage, his grief, his defiance, and the resonance faltered again. The harmony fractured once more. Panic spread through the conclave. They gathered in their orbital sanctum, a cathedral of glass and light hanging above the world of Tia. The eldest among them, Anshi, spoke first. "The infection persists," he said softly. "Erase the lattice. Begin anew." To preserve control, they would burn their own minds, resetting the network of obedience from its source. But another ethereal hesitated. "If we do this," she whispered, "we erase ourselves." Anshi's eyes were cold. "We are the greater good. Without us, there is only chaos." They began the ritual, an array of psychic nodes lighting one by one. Across the empire, billions of Tau froze mid-motion as the pulse built. The stars themselves seemed to dim. Tashren felt it coming. The pressure inside his skull grew until blood streamed from his eyes. He crawled toward the surface, screaming against the voice that tried to erase him. "I am not yours," he roared into the storm. Then he did something no Tau had ever done, he refused the calm. In the depths of his mind, where the ethereal song tried to rewrite his thoughts, he set fire to every memory they'd given him. The training, the prayers, the obedience, all of it burned. What remained was raw, human-like will. He pushed that defiance outward, an inverse echo against their pulse. For one blinding instant, the two forces met. The lattice shattered. Silence fell. When the light faded, the ethereal sanctum was gone, nothing but drifting shards in orbit. The pulse collapsed inward, cutting their connection forever. The Tau Empire went dark. Communication between worlds ceased. Drones wandered without command. The age of harmony ended in a whisper. Tashren stood on the surface of Daluth Prime, staring at the dim horizon. His armor was cracked, his body broken, but the world felt real for the first time. No voice guided his thoughts. No calm smothered his anger. Only the wind remained, carrying the faintest echo of a dream. For the greater good. He almost laughed. Because now he understood there was no greater good, only the fragile, terrible freedom to choose. He turned toward the stars. Somewhere out there, others would awaken. The empire would rebuild or devour itself, but the lie could never again be perfect. The truth had a pulse now, beating faintly in every Tau mind. And when the next dawn came to Daleuth Prime, it rose not over an empire, but over a people who had finally learned how to Daub. In the end, empires do not fall with thunder, they fade with memory. The Tau Empire still exists, in fragments. Its fleets drift among the stars, its drones still murmur their endless code, its cities still hum with the ghost of routine. But the rhythm is gone. The harmony is broken. No one speaks of the resonance collapse, the moment when the voices of the ethereals went silent. The official records call it a solar anomaly, a cosmic flare that disrupted communication. But the people remember things they shouldn't. A scent of ozone that still makes them tremble. A shadowed figure who spoke of freedom. A whisper that sometimes returns in dreams, we remember. On Daleuth Prime, the planet that birthed both the greater good and its undoing, a shrine stands among the ruins. There is no name, no statue, only a slab of black stone with words etched into it by plasma fire. He asked why. Pilgrims come in secret. They don't kneel, they simply stand in silence, feeling the weight of those words. Some say when the wind passes through the glass plains at dusk, it carries a faint echo, something like a heartbeat, or perhaps the rhythm of a pulse rifle firing long ago. The ethereals are gone, yet their creation endures. The neural harmonics that once enslaved the Tau still hum faintly in their DNA, dormant but never erased. Every generation, a few are born who feel too much, who look at the world and see the seams. They grow restless. They ask forbidden questions. And when they do, the cycle begins again. Tashren's story becomes legend, then myth, then doubt. The empire tells its children that he was a monster, a traitor, an infection that almost destroyed their unity. But in the quiet moments between drills, between breaths, some of them wonder. What if he was right? For the first time in millennia, the Tau have something the ethereals never planned for: choice. Choice to obey. Choice to question. Choice to remember. And as the stars drift over Daleuth's scarred sky, a voice older than memory seems to whisper through the static of the void. The greater good was never peace. It was silence. And now, finally, you can hear yourselves think. The wind carries the sound away. The plains shimmer with the dull reflection of dawn. Somewhere beyond the horizon, the next generation rises, eyes open, hearts uncertain, but free enough to doubt. And in that doubt lies something more powerful than any empire. The beginning of truth. The Tau Empire endures, but it is no longer perfect. Its fleets still drift across the stars, its cities still hum with mechanical order, yet the harmony is broken. The ethereals are gone, their voice silenced, but the memory of their control lingers. Tashren walks among the ruins of Daleuth Prime, scarred and weary, yet alive. He has seen the truth: the greater good was never freedom, it was obedience, a prison dressed as perfection. Yet in its collapse lies possibility. In the cracks of the empire, doubt now blooms, subtle and dangerous. Across distant worlds, Tau begin to question, to hesitate, to remember. For the first time, choice exists, painful, terrifying, yet infinitely more real than any peace imposed by silence. And as the stars turn above Daleuth Prime, a single truth drifts across the void. Perfection is a lie. Freedom, though fragile, endures. The greater good has ended, not with triumph, nor with total annihilation, but with a whisper of awareness, of defiance, of hope. With that said, thanks for watching, and until next time.